As I'm sure most of you have found, the Tyler Rationale focuses on 4 questions. What educational purposes should the school seek to attain? How can learning experiences be selected which are likely to be useful in attaining these objectives? And how can learning experiences be organized for effective instruction? And finally, how can the effectiveness of learning experiences be evaluated? In other words, he seeks to define appropriate learning objectives, and he wanted to introduce useful learning experiences and organize those experiences to maximize their effectiveness, and then after all of that, evaluate what had been done and maybe revise what didn't work as well. In this video, we're going to talk about, I'm going to argue 3 points. And my 3 points are, we're going to talk about learning as action. The second topic that I'll argue is curriculum as a source for change. And I'll talk about my experiences with the prison choir that I direct on Wednesday nights. And the third thing that I'll sort of maybe not argue but kind of touch on are some of the criticisms that have been brought up due to Tyler's rationale of curriculum development. Ralph Tyler was quoted in that previous slide as, "It is what he does that he learns," right? So that being said, we're going to learn through action right now. This is a lesson that we do trying to differentiate between eighth notes and quarter notes, and there's really only one quarter note in the whole thing. So let's see if we can figure this out. So the way that this is a body percussion pattern, and it starts with a clap. So we'll do the clap and then pat, pat on our laps. Try that. Right, good job. So we're going to actually speed this up because we're the advanced group, and I'm going to go quicker, but I'm going to say the words at the same time. So you're going to learn by doing with me these eighth notes and find the quarter note. Ready? Clap, pat, pat, clap, chest, snap, clap. Did you find the quarter note? Clap, pat, pat, clap, chest, snap, clap. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Oh, there it was. So in the prison choir, we learn by doing things like that. Take that we just applied physically, and we look at it on a piece of music. So anyway, so they learned quarter notes and eighth notes by doing, and that's pretty much the way that Tyler sets up his rationale. This kind of goes to the second set of question, or the second question that Tyler asks: how can learning experiences be selected which are likely to be useful in attaining the objectives? So I've introduced something useful. I've introduced the quarter note, the eighth note, those two families and how they work together, and then I introduced a different pattern, and then we saw it on a piece of music. So we learned everything by doing, and we made it useful and attainable to them through that doing. This is going to go completely off of what I was talking about. Using curriculum as a source of inquiry, right? So Tyler is also quoted as saying, "The essential means of education are experiences provided, not the thing to which the student is exposed." So I exposed the students to eighth notes and quarter notes, right? Which in and of themselves, they're kind of boring and kind of dull. But when I linked it to a different experience, the body percussion, and then putting it together with another body percussion pattern, then we were able to see and experience, and they were able to understand those eighth notes, quarter notes. But they were also able to question, how those things fit together, why the quarter note is the essential, like the foundation of everything, and why the eighth note kind of comes in and messes it up, or works with it and adds to it, kind of thing. So yeah, so there's that. Okay. So to go back to the hole-in-the-wall experiment, as seen on the TED video, we all watched the video, right? And we all had different reactions to it. But the thing that I think got me the most as learning as action is that when these students were working together to kind of come up with the same, or kind of teach each other, they were learning and teaching each other. And that's what I think curriculum needs to be like. The previous quote that you just read came from Ralph Tyler's 1949 book, Basic Principles of Curriculum and Instruction. And basically it talks about how it's not what we do, it's the experiences that the students take away, and how those experiences change who the student becomes. When we're creating a curriculum, we not only have these objectives in mind and all of these things that we need to get done, but we also think about the way that our curriculum is going to impact our students and the changes that that may bring. So I'm going to again talk about the prison choir and the social and behavioral changes that happen with the curriculum there. When I go into the prison and I have my idea of what we're going to do, right, I can't pretend to know the social context in which they live, right? I can go there and I can, do the thing that I do, but at the end of the hour and a half that we're together, I go home and they go back to their cell. The way that this curriculum brings about social change, it serves to prepare the students that I have to function better in the society that they're living in, right, inside the prisons. It's functioning in a way that it teaches the guys how to work together in a small group of people without using violence or negative energy in any way. And it also teaches them a way to connect with a different part of their selves, right? And as well as within that connectivity to themselves comes a connection to each other and me, and we're all connected, right? So, and that's using my curriculum as change, because that's not how they function. That's not how their lives are. They're constantly in survival mode. So we're gonna go to John Dewey for a second, and John Dewey sees education as the reconstruction of experience, right? So their experiences that they've had in their lives have all been negative. And I go in with my curriculum and try to reconstruct that so that we can use the curriculum to change their social behaviors. This section talks about the criticisms that have been surrounding the Tyler rationale. And I wrote up 3 questions that kind of came about not only when I was just thinking about it, but these are actually things that people have said. I don't really have the answers. The only thing that I can go to, I'm going to start with the first, is his model outdated? And I mean, he wrote the model in 1949, right? And in the 1970s, he started to, look at it again. And actually, in 1962, Taba, I think that's how you say it, or Taba, she actually amended his rationale for curriculum. Tyler starts with stating the purpose of the curriculum, identifying experiences, and then organizing those experiences, and then finally evaluating everything. What Taba does is she begins the curriculum by assessing the student needs in order to formulate the purpose of the curriculum. Rather than a means to an end, Taba uses the selecting of the content necessary for learning experiences rather than the objective. She looks to making the experiences more worthwhile, and it's not a means to get to the objective, it's a means to making the experiences mean something to the students. So that's how I could answer that question. Is it outdated? Well, sure, it was 1949. But I don't think that means that it needs to disappear. But I also agree that what Taba did to begin it, in order to formulate the objective, in order to understand what the purpose is of your curriculum, you need to know what your students need to know, right? What they already know. The second question, is it only appropriate for those who seek to control the learning of the students? I suppose I could see that, I mean, you're coming up, you're answering all of these questions, basically. So his 4 questions that he states, who's answering those questions? The teacher, the school district, not the students. And maybe that's how we can argue with that. My final question, does Tyler's model for curriculum cage its learners and empower its teachers? I mean, it empowers me because I'm the one creating it. It's empowering the students as well. If you just get them started, then it can empower them to create their own finishing, right? Their own end result. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I look forward to watching yours.